The Xbox 360 is a fantastic console with a ton of fantastic games, and some of my favorite video games of all time are Star Wars games. And what better system to play them on than the R2-D2 Xbox 360 Slim? This bad boy was released in 2012 and was bundled with an Xbox Kinect as well as this gold C3PO controller. And look at his little tummy wires there. This is perhaps one of my favorite special edition consoles like ever released in the history of time. Not only is it R2-D2, it comes with a really slick controller, and it makes the R2-D2 noises when you press the buttons. And that just make you happy. But why have a Star Wars console if you don't have Star Wars games to play on it? Well, starting us off is the game that was bundled with this console, Kinect Star Wars. Now, as with most Kinect games, this isn't for everyone. It's more like a half-baked tech demo with some random mini-games and Dancing with Han Solo. But there's pod racing, there's Rancor rampaging, there's like this Jedi game mode. It's a pretty silly, chill game to play with friends, especially if you guys like having a laugh together. But now for the one that most of you guys are thinking of, LEGO Star Wars The Complete Saga. Now, the 360 also had LEGO Star Wars 2, which is just the original trilogy, but why not go for The Complete Saga? This game is an all-time classic. Period. Not only do you play through all 6 original movies with a fun little LEGO twist, there are also a ton of characters to unlock, fantastic co-op, custom LEGO characters you get to make, bonus levels. Indiana Jones is thrown in there. This game has some of my best memories playing video games ever. If you have a 360 or honestly a PS3, a PS2, or a GameCube, any system that had these games released for it, you have to have LEGO Star Wars. Now, a game that I don't actually have with me right now is LEGO Star Wars 3, The Clone Wars. Tons of people have fond memories of The Complete Saga. LEGO Star Wars 3 came out at a kind of weird time, and I don't see nearly as much nostalgia discussed about it, but honestly, might be one of my favorite LEGO games. You have a Separatist and Republic like cruisers that's the hub world, and you can fly back and forth. There's way more characters, way more stuff to do. It's crazy. The amount of content that they packed into this game while still managing not to make it feel overwhelming is impressive. And dude, it's the Clone Wars, man. Of course it's awesome. Speaking of Clone Wars, there's also Star Wars The Clone Wars Republic Heroes. This game is a bit of a beat-em-up action-adventure game and was released on a handful of consoles. Compared to all the other games I've talked about, it's really nothing special. But if you love Star Wars and you love The Clone Wars, even mediocre games can be enjoyable. Next up, we have 2 games, the original Force Unleashed and Force Unleashed 2. When this game first came out with this spectacular performance from Sam Witwer, who also voices Darth Maul, I don't think anyone expected it to be as awesome as it was. If I had to describe it as something, it's like if God of War was Star Wars. You play Starkiller, Darth Vader's unrelenting apprentice. You have a choice of a good ending and a bad ending, and some fantastic Star Wars set pieces, as well as some amazing gameplay. How could you ever forget pulling the Star Destroyer out of the sky with the freaking Force? There is a reason that fans are still clamoring for another Force Unleashed game, or at least to see Starkiller, Galen Marek, show up in canon. And that's because these games are awesome. The first one is fantastic. The second one was rushed out a little bit, but honestly, still worth playing. Now, this next game might surprise you. Disney Infinity 3.0. Toys to Life games are actually pretty dang cool. And if you've noticed, Skylanders is starting to get popular again. It kind of stinks that the market just kind of got oversaturated way too quick, with all these other companies jumping on the bandwagon and releasing their own Toys to Life. And Disney was no exception. 1.0 came out, was all Disney and Pixar characters. 2.0 introduced Marvel characters, and 3.0 introduced Star Wars. Now, if you're gonna get a Disney Infinity game, you kind of want to get 3.0. 2.0 feels more like a tech demo and doesn't really have all that much to it. 1.0 is okay, but you really just don't have as many characters. 3.0, you have all the other characters that were already released and tons of awesome stuff to do. And if you like toys like I do, you also get these cool little figures that are super cool and stylized, and even though they aren't releasing new Infinity games anymore, Disney makes the Disney Toy Box toy line, which is exclusive to their stores, and it's the Disney Infinity style, but actually like 5-inch scale articulated figures. And dude, I love that toy line. It looks so cool. So if you're going for every Star Wars game on the 360, there's another one for you to pick up. Now it pretty much covers all the 360 games, but there's a whole lot more. The 360 was backwards compatible with a ton of original Xbox titles, so let's go through all of those ones. First up, how can we talk about Star Wars video games without talking about Battlefront? Star Wars Battlefront and Star Wars Battlefront 2 were both released on the original Xbox and both play on the 360. So if you've got your Star Wars Special Edition Xbox, you need two of the best Star Wars video games ever made. You want to feel like a rebel, a clone trooper, a stormtrooper? These are the games you play. I can't tell you how many hours I played in these games. I mean, honestly, just in instant action, exploring maps and just feeling like I was in Star Wars. Some people have a preference between Battlefront 1 and Battlefront 2, but I honestly think you need both. There's specific maps that are exclusive to each game, and if you want to have the most options as possible and the most fun, you kind of need both. Next up is Star Wars The Clone Wars, before the Clone Wars series. Fun fact about this game, it also comes packed with Tetris Worlds, 2 for 1. This was a fun action game that was a lot of people's sort of introduction to the wider world of clones and the Clone Wars, but honestly, not quite as impactful as the next game. Star Wars Republic Commando. Oh my dear God, Lord in heaven. This is one of my favorite games ever made. This was actually the first game I ever bought with my own money, and wow, does it still hold up. You take control of RC-1138, Boss, leader of a Special Ops Clone Commando unit, Delta Squad. You take on some of the most intense and dangerous missions of the Clone Wars while divvying out commands to your squad members to get to victory. But the coolest thing about this game is that you're not a Jedi. You don't have the Force or a lightsaber that can chop off limbs and deflect blasts. You're a clone trooper. You've got a gun, and super battle droids are scary. I can never recommend this game enough. So you want to feel like a clone trooper, that's the game for you, but you want to feel like a Jedi? Star Wars Jedi Knight Jedi Academy might be your best option. I mean, still to this day, I don't think a game has beat the lightsaber mechanics that this game introduced. Jedi Academy is technically one in a series of Jedi Knight games that go all the way back to Doom clones. For most of the series, you follow Kyle Katarn, who actually stole Death Star plans and is what those original games were about, but here, you take the role of a Jedi Knight, being trained in Luke Skywalker's new Jedi Academy, and it's really cool. The more recent Jedi Fallen Order might have some more modern sensibilities. This game makes you feel like a Jedi. The game right before Jedi Academy, Jedi Outcast, was also released on the original Xbox and still plays on the 360. In Outcast, you actually play as Kyle Katarn, which is a big plus. Its mechanics aren't quite as evolved as Jedi Academy, but it's still worth the play. Alright, we got feeling like a clone trooper, we got feeling like a Jedi. What about feeling like a pilot? Star Wars Starfighter Special Edition. This is the definitive version of Star Wars Starfighter. You got bonus levels, 3 ships that you can pilot, and 2 player modes. It's no Star Wars Squadrons, which, wow, that game is insane. But if you want to have more of a casual sort of arcadey flying game instead of the like hardcore flight simulator that Squadrons is, this game's for you. And finally, we come to our last 2 entries. 2 of the greatest games ever forged by human hands, and honestly, I'm not even convinced they were human hands. We have Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic and Knights of the Old Republic 2 Sith Lords. Developed by BioWare and Obsidian respectively, these real-time turn-based RPGs are some of the best stories ever told in a Star Wars video game. You also have so much control over your character and the path that your character takes. You even get this cool light dark side spectrum, followers and team members, tons of new equipment and armor, force abilities, different attacks. Yeah, some games actually make you feel like a trooper or a Jedi with the mechanics that they have, but these games make you feel like you're in Star Wars. The tons of worlds you get to explore, all the different characters, the Ebon Hawk, oh my god. The fact that the aliens speak their native languages, it's all translated for you. You could buy droids. You could just ignore the campaign and just play Pazak in a bar. I don't think I want to know how many hours I have spent in this game just playing Star Wars Blackjack, because honestly it would probably throw me into a midlife crisis. Knights of the Old Republic isn't for every gamer. That sort of real-time turn-based can be a bit of a learning curve, but these 2 games are must-plays for Star Wars fans, and I mean, what better system to play it on than R2-D2? Now, I'm like 98% sure that's every Star Wars game you can play on the 360. I may have missed a couple. Let me know in the comments if I did. I wrote a script, I researched, I checked. I screw up sometimes. There are actually a few original Xbox Star Wars games that don't play on the 360, like Star Wars Obi-Wan. I also believe some copies of Star Wars The Clone Wars don't play either. I think this dual pack copy that also comes with Tetris Worlds is the only one that does play on the 360. And just as a reminder, if you are planning to play original Xbox games on your 360, you do need a Microsoft branded hard drive. Sometimes the third-party ones don't work with original Xbox games because they actually need to have like the updates from Microsoft on Xbox Live, so you'll want to make sure you got that. I love Star Wars. Which ones of these games did you play growing up? Let me know that in the comments because I love talking about memories, especially if it's about Star Wars. And if so, which soundbite is the most memorable to you?
Watch those wrist rockets! Get yourself some Bacta, Commando.
Thanks for tuning in to the Nostalgic Network, and I'll see you next time.